Okay, here's a breakdown of a typical lap, starting at the pit area on a race night. Okay, so coming down the front straight, the first thing I want to do is to get the kart traveling in a straight line so that there's no steering input left or right, assuming we have a kart that isn't pulling and can actually drive straight. Now, I don't aim to drive straight along this wall and then turn in. Instead, I aim to point this left wheel and aim it at the white paint diagonally across the track, and I aim to drive a straight line across the track here. Now, sometimes I get that spot on, sometimes I'm a bit to the right or a little bit off, but as soon as possible I want to get this kart straight, or driving straight, aiming that front wheel at the left paint. So let's have a look, see how I do on this lap. You'll see us looking quite often up here at the board to try and get an idea of what our lap times are. And of course I do that in this race. Okay, now you can see how we're starting to come off the wall. This gap is widening. Now I try to run flat along here. You can see how I'm coming very close to this wall on this part of the turn. You'll see some drivers coming as much as a kart length off the wall here, and I don't think it really benefits you to do that. You just make the track you're just increasing the length of the track basically by the amount that you're off this wall. If you're off the wall a full kart length, you've just added a kart length to the length of the track, and the thing is, you're not gaining any speed when you're doing it. There's no way for this kart really to go any faster if it is here next to the wall, or if it is out here. There's really nothing to be gained at this point by running this section wider. And you know, a lot of people are thinking, well, I need stability as I go through this turn. Well, the answer to stability here is to set your brake point. Now, I start braking right here. I'm aiming to line the front of the kart and the front wheels about where the front of the kart or the front wheel meets the fifth tire here. So I'm going to start squeezing on the brakes with a smooth and consistent pressure. I'm not jamming hard. I'm not trying to bring it to an abrupt stop. I want the weight to transfer to the front of the kart as smoothly and as gradually as possible, because I'm actually trail braking. If you notice my hands, how the angle of the steering wheel is slightly turned in, and I'm going to brake along this arc here. So as we come into the plate, now a lot of drivers are coming out over here, coming wide. I don't do that. At about here, or certainly from back here, I make a quick glance at where there's a crack here. I take a quick glance at that, and we'll get a closer look at that in a second. Aim my wheels that way, and then put my eye right here on the apex, and I let the wheels sort of track where they go. I watch them through my peripheral vision, but my eye's over here at this point. Notice how tight I am. I'm not coming out wide. Here's that crack that I was talking about. What's happening here is the concrete is being pushed upwards. Whatever's happening in this building, this concrete slab has split and it's being pushed upwards. So this slab over here is off camber. It leans down, and this slab of concrete is banked inwards. For the drivers that are driving out wide, they're driving almost completely on an off-camber surface. There's a lot of dirt gets thrown to the outside, so there's little rubber balls and pellets that are all along here, and they get stuck in your tires. And there's this round steel manhole right here, and the back of your kart will hit this and everything gets very bumpy over this seam here if you go wide. So I've found the solution is to get yourself as tight as this. Notice I'm about almost a foot and a half to my left wheel is a foot and a half to this seam. Getting yourself as tight as this. Now, in the sixes, you can get away with that. In the nines, you need your front left wheel out here a bit. You need to be a bit wider, but you still want your left front wheel to be inside of that crack. Now about here, my eye has been on the apex the whole time, and now I really start trying to aim my wheel right here. And you'll see as we travel through the turn, I maintain that the orientation of the wheel. Notice my hands aren't moving a hell of a lot. They move a little, but not a lot. Just enough to maintain it. If there's any sort of slip on the kart, I make sure that the wheel stays oriented here so I can get nice and close to this plastic. Now when the plastic's loose like this, you can hit it, and it pays to go and check the plastic, see where it's sitting. I don't always hit it, but I notice on the very fastest laps we're clipping it. Note also that all through here, my goal of getting through this turn is to do it without any slide at all. I want the weight to shift forward gently. I want it to load up. I want the kart to tip over. I want this back inside wheel to be lifted up in the air just slightly so that it's spinning freely, and I want the outside to bite and grip, and I want to get through this turn carrying as much roll speed as I can. Okay, I notice here I'm giving it a bit more input on the exit. Looks like I'm trying to get over for this turn, but my eye at this point is on that apex already, and let's follow that turn through, and I get up to here at a 45-degree angle to this turn and begin my turn in, and I start aiming this wheel. Here I am shooting for here. Again, we want to be as close as we can to this wall, to the apex of the turn. As we come out of this turn, note where my front wheel crosses this seam in relation to these two cracks. If you're finding you're crossing this seam way over here, then you've apexed too early and you need to turn in later. And this is a good measure of whether or not you're online and how well you're doing. Just note how and where you cross these seams, and aim to be, if not right on this crack, to be about this much to the right of it. And that's going to allow you to track out to the wall like this. Notice I'm off the wall a little bit. Some drivers go all the way out and touch this plastic, but you can still be off the wall a bit to make this left-hander, and we are though going to get very close over here. See how close we've come, and we're going to travel this line here. So this is our classic 180-degree right-hand turn, and from about here, notice we've come off the wall a bit, but from about here you're going to start seeing this white paint on the track, and I aim my wheel for that, and my goal is to start turning in just past it. I want to say about a foot to 2 foot past this white paint. So, well, looks like I'm turning in before the white paint. My goal is really, I guess what I'm trying to do here with this input is to flatten out against the wall. If I keep my steering input, I'm going to run straight in the wall. So the left-hander has pushed this out to the center of the track a bit, and I'm trying to get as wide as possible, and I'm wide enough now, and I flatten out a bit. So this steering input isn't to turn in, it's to flatten against the wall. We're at the white paint now, and eyes definitely on the apex, but here's a rough idea at the 45-degree line, and I'm going to want to turn in as soon as my right front wheel hits this line. So right here, my foot See how my foot is coming back on? Okay, here I'm coming into the turn. I'm full throttle, and watch what happens to my foot here. See it lift off? See how my foot lifted? That's because I want the weight. And then watch, 1, 2, 3 frames later, my foot's back down to the ground. I'm full throttle again. So I've lifted my foot off the pedal ever so briefly, and the purpose of that is so that the weight just briefly shifts to the front of the vehicle while I begin my turn in. And that allows the front of the wheels to bite, and it gives you that rotation you need. Now I'm on that 45-degree line, and I'm aiming my wheels for the apex. I might have turned in a bit too early, and you'll notice my hands release the steering just a little bit to maintain that angle. And so you can see by the hand movement how little I'm adjusting my hands. So this is me trying to adjust my steering in the middle of a turn to make sure that I don't drive straight into that pole. And all of this is to compensate for the fact that I turned in too early. I should have turned in a little bit past that white paint, but I turned in, looks like, right on it. And I've made some adjustments to fix that, which has got me now, and I'm making all sorts of adjustments here. You can see it's only it's really fractions of an inch, but it's put me right here. So blip the gas, briefly shift the weight to the front, and you can then, as soon as that foot comes down, I'm full throttle all the way through this turn, and I've had to make some little adjustments to make sure I got online and met this apex properly. Okay, again, there are 2 cracks in the track as you come out of this turn, right at the seam, just like on turn 2. Turn 4 also has these 2 cracks, and again, I watch these 2 cracks to watch where this inside wheel crosses them. I want my inside wheel to be on the right hand side of these cracks. I don't want it out here in the second crack, and at the very latest I want to be in the middle between these 2. I want to cross here. If you can get your right wheel to cross before that crack number 1, as I think we have here, as you can see, okay, you're going to be off the wall a little bit, and you want that. I might be a bit wide actually at this point, but otherwise, if you hit these cracks, if you hit over here on crack 2, I can tell you, you'll come right out to the wall here and run along the wall a bit, and you'll actually be making the track quite a bit longer, and you're going to lose to the guys that are able to spend less time back there in that turn. Okay, here, look out for the hole. There is a hole, and everyone soon finds out that there's very little traction through this turn. There's some rather bizarre things that happen to the balance of your cart. I think the trick is to not turn in as much and kind of aim here. See where my wheel is aiming? And don't go for the apex too early. And now from here, I'm being very careful about how I get back on the gas, but I use a double blip on the accelerator. So I don't just stomp on the gas. I give it a little test first, if you like 1, 2 sometimes, and squeeze. Okay, here on the back straight, when you get out there, have a look over there, and you're going to see a white line's been painted on the tyre wall. You can see that white line from back here, and you can just almost see it at the end of the green line there. I painted that white line on the wall there. And I put it there so as you come out of this turn, you can aim your left wheel right at that white mark. And then you can drive a straight line down the back straight. Now it's not a straight line along the wall, but it's a straight, you get the cart pointing straight, and again run a diagonal across the straight. And if you've seen my track map, you'll see what I mean there. Sometimes there are cones and things where you can measure things up. If you do that, you're going to find it's kind of difficult to see here. You can see a bit there. See that thing? That's yellow paint on the track. It's a leftover from a last one of our race seasons. And there's another yellow strip right here. Now I'm a bit to the right of that, but when you aim the cart at that white paint I'm talking about, you're going to find yourself crossing this line right where that yellow paint and the seam meet. As close as the yellow paint, or within a foot of it, this is good. This sets you up to begin your turn in right at this point, and it sets you up to cross see the seam. There's 4 pieces of concrete, and those 4 pieces of concrete are actually cambered different angles, just like the crack on the first turn. They're all at different angles, and if this wheel crosses right at where this X intercept, things get very bumpy. And if you're too far to the left and your right wheel hits this cross, again things get very bumpy. So the sweet spot is to cross this crack so that your right wheel is on the right of it and your left wheel is on the left of it, and about where I travel, which means you want your left wheel to be somewhere in this blue zone. And you'll see I cross about here. This seems like a good area. I seem to like being a little bit more to the right of this, say right in the center of these 2 blue lines usually, but and I usually am. Today I'm not sure why, but just where I went. As you come through here, the next place you're going to look at is along this wall here, and notice this little white piece of concrete or something. If you go and walk the track, you'll see it, or if you slow down a bit to have a look at it, and watch my left wheel and how close I come to it. See how I'm off it a bit. I'm probably about 3 to 4 inches of this concrete. It's some sort of filler that they put in near the pole. And from this place, from about the seam, I start watching this edge, and I'm looking for this to develop. And you see that line? Because my goal is to drive along those dots and meet the wall right there. And notice that how far off the wall I am, and how I'm slowly closing this gap. See that closing? It's a very gradual and even closure of the gap to this wall. And now see how close I am and how tight I come. That's your goal. That's what you want to do through the sweeper. And if you follow this line, you can do that full throttle all the way through. Now I might blip just as I get past this this seam back here. I might blip the gas right here, just off on, just like we did on that other turn, on turn turn 4, just like we did back there. I'll blip the gas right here, and I'll do that in the 9s too. When you get it, what that does is, again, is it shifts the weight to the front wheels. It gets the front wheels to bite, and it gets your back left wheel to lift a bit, and it changes your center of gravity, just a little bit, so that as your body comes out, it puts a little bit more pressure down on the back right wheel. And it's not lateral force when you blip like this. So it's not force that goes out to the right, it's force that goes down on the back wheel, and it gives you extra grip. So it allows you to more easily travel full throttle through the entire sweeper. So a lot of drivers get to about here and they start trying to give it a little bit less throttle, 3/4 throttle, or somewhere between 3/4 and full. They start trying to gingerly modulate the throttle through here, or they let off entirely. If you wait until this point of the track to try and modulate your throttling, it's going to throw a lot of weight to the front. It's going to make the back light, and it will put you into a slide. By the time you get here, you'll start to slide. The back will start slipping out, especially if you're leaning in. If you're leaning in, it changes the center of gravity so that it puts a lot of force in. Let's say I'm going to put an angle like this. It puts force into the back wheel on this angle. Whereas if you've modulated earlier, the force on your back wheel is going to be more in this direction and less in that direction. I'm hoping you can see my my cursor, because I'm moving my mouse around. Okay, it brings you off the wall a bit. Note this oil patch and how far off the wall we are. I use this oil patch usually as a measure to see how I'm on or offline, and I can use that to fine-tune my setup for this right-hander. So if you're hitting that oil patch more to the left, you're apexing later. If you're hitting it too far to the right over here, if this wheel is getting out here, then you're apexing too early and you've got something up with your line through the sweeper. So you can use that to, just like we were using the two cracks over here and the two cracks on turn 4 and turn 2. I use this oil patch as my measure of my exit. And really, you know, what you're looking for here is the sweet spot. As I come in here, there's white paint again on the side. Again, throughout this turn, it looks like I'm slow to lean out, but again, through this turn, I'm aiming that front wheel at this apex. And my goal is to, did you see how I hit it there? See how it's out? Bam, and we run straight through it. It's very loose. It usually is. It's been like that for months now. So we just expect it to be loose. Usually, you know, I'm looking to hit about the 45-degree mark. I could be anywhere from the left or right here. It's been pretty random, the output of the sweeper. But as soon as I hit that 45-degree, bam, I'm going to start aiming that wheel right for the apex. Looks like I've turned in a bit early because I've had to correct. It's not what we want to do really, but it's happened. So this is an early turn in. You want to turn in about there, a little bit later, and you're not going to have to do this correction. Okay, that sends me out wide. We like getting out wide in. Over here there's white paint again on the track, and you want to turn in just past it. Just about this mark here is where I'm going to start turning in for that turn. Little straight line brake. This steering input is not really a turn for here. It's really to flatten out and get myself to the turn-in point. And it's a pretty late apex. Send yourself wide. Okay, it was a less than perfect lap. I can see there were a lot of cases where I turned in a little early. And ideally, you would be holding a single input like this all the way through the turn. But I've had to make some adjustments. I can see here, see my hand goes to the right. So let's see, I've turned in, realized about here that I'm going to drive straight in the wall. I should say I made some hand adjustments, but those hand adjustments are because I'm trying to point my wheel. In this case, on this turn, I point a bit to the right because we want a late apex, and I've let the steering go a bit so that I could do that, and come in here, bam, got my nice late apex, very tight. So I do make steering adjustments, but again, you know, I want to stress they're very, very small adjustments, and they're made because I'm pointing my wheels. And notice where we come out, we're a bit shy of this seam. Our goal is to get to that seam. If anything, so that's it. That's a breakdown of our it's a breakdown of how to get through the track, pulling mid to high 29s at 210 pounds.